Hello! Welcome to another episode of Avenue A. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you who are joining us right at the beginning of the episode, I love it. Thanks for being here. Avenue A is a platform where we talk acting, we talk networking, and we talk the arts industries as a whole. And we go live every week, every Friday evening. And I chat with a different artist about their journey and their experience of being an artist, and I sort of try and see if they have any nuggets of wisdom to share with us, just to stay connected during this crazy disconnected time. So again, thanks for being here. Thanks for spending a bit of your Friday evening with us. I hope you have your cocktail or your glass of wine, or you're cuddled in your couch or your bed. That's the place to be. I'm really happy to be here. I love bookending my week with Avenue A. It's such a inspirational time and such a warm way to end the week, I think. So thanks for being here. Without further ado, I'm really excited to announce today's guest. So his name is CJ HAWLEY. Now, CJ and I actually met years ago. I'm trying to think how long it's been, maybe 3 or 4 years, in the open mic music scene in Portland, Oregon, which is so random. But we sort of have stayed connected on Facebook over the years, and he's an amazing artist, and I'm excited to chat with him tonight. So CJ HAWLEY is a Portland-based solo guitarist, mainly, with a simple love for playing his heart out. CJ loves the way music can move the soul and stir the heart. He says that if what he puts out there can do for a few what it does for him, then mission accomplished. In the last few months, CJ has started a community building project called Build Your Own Fire. And this is a group on Facebook, a community on Facebook, with the intent to allow for community discussion and to offer a safe place to share struggles for anyone, and for people to exchange insight and advice. So I'm really excited to have CJ on the show. And without further ado, let's welcome him to the stage. Hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, of course. I'm honored. I've been watching for a while, and you've had some really cool guests, and yeah, it's an honor to be here. So
thank you. Yeah, you really have been one of the most consistent and like vocal viewers, and I have appreciated that since the beginning in the conception of Avenue A, because I just felt like you as a fellow artist, and I don't know, your support was just really meaningful. So I appreciate that greatly, and I'm so glad to have you on the show so that we can have a little chat ourselves.
Awesome.
So let's just dive right in. I want to talk to you a little bit about just your own journey as a performer. And then can you give us a little insight or context into what led you to create the Build Your Own Fire community?
Yeah, I mean, so they're really tied together. So my journey as a performer really started, so I moved to Portland about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And it wasn't until after my divorce that I started going out to open mics. And anybody who's been through that knows it can be a very harrowing experience. And not only just difficulty-wise, but, you know, it can have an impact on your sense of self-worth, and, you know, how you're able to keep things together or lack thereof. And it can have a psychological impact.
Yeah.
And so there is one particular night I remember sitting in a big empty house, and I was looking at the liquor cabinet, and I was looking at my guitar hanging on the wall. And I chose the guitar and just decided, and without the intent of wanting to go perform, it's just always been a love of mine, and I wanted to dive back in and start being creative and creating and expressing and taking all these things that are churning inside of me and putting them into music. And then once I had some material I was happy with, that I loved, I just randomly one night lit a fire under my own ass and decided to go out to an open mic. And I am terrible with stage fright. It was horrifying. It's doesn't come naturally to me, but
well, I will say you never showed it. I mean, I like I said, we met in the open mic sort of scene in Portland, and you always came across as just like this calm, cool, collected, just very talented performer. So if for what it's worth, yeah, it didn't come, the nerves didn't come through.
So that's surprising and good to know. So the metaphor comes to mind of the duck moving across the pond, like it's just floating across, but underneath its legs are paddling.
It's just paddling.
That's what was going on inside me, probably. But
sure.
But yeah, that was huge for me, and it was more just, it wasn't to go find people necessarily. It was just to go do something scary on purpose, and to go put myself out there. And as a result, I stumbled into a really warm, amazing community of people, and I've got amazing friends, longtime friends from back in high school. And, we always say it's crazy that we made it to adulthood and we still all stay connected.
Yeah.
But this was the first time I had gone out on purpose to kind of go find my people. Like I said, I didn't do it with that intention, but I got out there and then found a new community that was local and shared passions and shared heart. And and from there, I started going to more and more open mics, and I saw local artists doing amazing things and producing their own albums and working together. And it didn't feel like, I think people have this preconceived idea of the music industry being pretty cutthroat, and everybody's trying to claw their way to the top and beat each other. I didn't get that sense at all. Here, everybody was working together, working on collaborative projects, and just having beers and being people. And that was huge for me. And that's really what music, and even producing my own material and pursuing goals as an artist, it was really all around community for me. And that's what I got out of it. That's what was special to me.
Absolutely. So can you talk a little bit about how that experience with community has fueled your desire to create this now online community that you are working on, the Build Your Own Fire? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it really does all tie together. In my journey, and partially getting out there, getting out of the house, going out to an open mic, finding people, that was one of a lot of steps toward kind of rebuilding my own self-contained sense of self-worth. On top of that, there's a really great men's group community that I've become a part of, that was through Facebook. That there's just amazing guys in there. It's been an incredible community. And then just through reading books and journaling and getting into yoga and meditation and just taking myself on hikes. And I mean, it's just been a lot of facets to unraveling some toxic thought patterns, I guess is a good way of saying it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess in the same way that I wrote some songs and then had this desire to go share it, not out of a sense of trying to make it or anything, just I want to go share this with the world. It's something inside us, artists, I don't know what it is. Maybe we're sick in the head, but I wanted to share that too. I've spent a lot of time writing down like tools that I've used to help me. And yeah, I know a lot of people struggle with sense of self-worth, what people think of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I put a lot of those on paper, and now a lot of those into a Facebook page. And yeah, I just want to share. I wanted to share my journey and my thoughts and my experiences, and also the community aspect. So like I said, just between the music community here in Portland, old friends, and the men's group I found, community has been huge. So I wanted to create a container for that. I wanted to offer what has been offered to me and what helped me.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that the overall theme of Building Your Own Fire refers to taking personal responsibility, right, for your own peace of mind, your emotional health, and your happiness. I think how others respond to us as artists and how we're perceived is a huge part of being an artist, right? Because we sort of like put ourselves in this position to be scrutinized in a way when we're like in front of an audience and the spotlight is on us, and it's like, so that is a huge part of being an artist, but it can also be really hard, especially when, we have to face rejection and competition and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on this? And if you can tell us sort of your own journey with these concepts.
Yeah. So getting out and playing music and being on the stage and dealing with all of that as an artist and as a performer, and not just competition and rejection, but also dismissal, right? When people you're just kind of background music and you're just kind of there, and man, I poured my heart into this and I wanted to connect with people, that plays so well into just moving through life. I mean, you learn so much on the stage
yeah,
about how to just interact with the world and move through the world. So that all ties together.
Yeah, I think that's right. So you're sort of saying that as artists, if we're able to sort of wrangle our own sense of self and find that worth within ourselves, then, it seems like we'll have a better time when we go out there, and maybe we don't get the response that we're wanting from people. Like, we can't control, if we're in an audition room and they're like, next, I mean, that feels so personal, right? But I think what I'm hearing from you is that if we develop that sense of self-worth and that, like taking the responsibility, like you said, for our own peace of mind and happiness, that moving through those spaces where we are getting rejected or dismissed, like you said, doesn't feel as detrimental, right?
Right. So when you're playing music, a big hurdle to get over when you first start is that it's learning to simply love it and show people how much you love it instead of reaching to try and get a response out of people. Right. And that translates into life in a huge way.
I think so too. That's actually, I mean, I just want to pause on that for a second. That's huge. I think even in the performing arts world, like I'm thinking about that concept as a theater artist in terms of when I think about going into the audition room, if you are catering your audition to who is watching you and you're like, oh, I'm going to do what I think that they want, or I'm going to be who I think that they want me to be in order to get cast in this role or whatever it might be. I think that that's a much less successful way to go about it versus just knowing, okay, this is who I am. This is what I can offer. I'm going to present it to them and they can take it or leave it. And that doesn't mean that I'm any less of an artist.
Right. And that's going to be the best version that you can offer, is you're just pure, full, authentic self.
Yeah.
When you wrote the piece of music, or when you're acting, you put yourself into it and you want to portray that. And it's really hard for empathetic people. There's a fine line between being attuned to somebody when you're speaking to them and being overly concerned about how you're perceiving them. Like, I feel like I'm pretty good at speaking to my audience, depending on who I'm talking to, even at work. If I'm talking to my boss or if I'm talking to somebody else, I kind of get their personality and I kind of try. And I think there's some merit to this. Try to say things in a way that, like, I want you to understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want you to receive me well, right? I think that's part of it too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you want to be well received, but that can just overtake you. So I think it's important to both in life and on the stage to just put your all into it for your own sake, as far as taking responsibility for your own peace of mind. For your own sake, just be with it, be in it, enjoy it for the sake of enjoying it, and then your most authentic self will come through, and that will be received in the best way by those who would receive it.
Right. Yeah.
And not everybody will. That's okay.
Yes, I think that's not everybody will, and that's okay. That's a huge concept that I've been grappling with for years. I mean, I'm a huge people pleaser. I definitely as an empath as well. I feel like I I see what people are wanting, and sometimes I want to give it to them, right? Especially as a performer too. Like you want to be in tune with, if you're working with. Like a director or a band or another musician, you want to be flexible to what their visions are or what they're trying to offer, and you want to work well with them.
And that thought can come up where I'm up here and I want to be up here for a reason, and so I wanted to connect with people.
Yeah,
you have that desire, but you got to balance that out.
You do, because it's not always going to happen, and that's okay. Yeah, I think that's a really tough one to unpack. But I think, it sounds like you have your finger on the pulse, because I think it really does come back to our relationship with ourselves, right? As who am I as an artist, and who am I as a person, and am I okay with myself? And if I am okay with myself, then it's okay if other people aren't so into it,
Yeah,
and even though that's still hard.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that phrase, finger on the pulse, because it to me that it feels like, in the world today, especially, it's becoming bigger and bigger. These ideas of personal development and introspection and all that. There can be this notion that eventually one day I'll read the right meme or read the right book or hear the right quote, and that thought will just set me free. Like, oh, that's the thing I was missing. That's the thing I needed to hear, and it's all better now. Or even deeper than that, I can do enough work. I can think about this enough. I can journal enough, or I can go on enough hikes on my own and think about life enough.
Yeah.
But eventually I'll get there. But like the finger on the pulse idea, it's constantly just being in tune with it and being aware of it, and
in the present, right? It brings you back to the what's happening now. Yeah.
You can always go forward and you can always go backward.
Yeah.
From where you're at. You never arrive. It's about the journey.
Yes.
And it's about continuously just staying aware and being honest with yourself about where you might be going off track, and constantly coming back to reflection. It's a lifestyle. It's like they say about exercising. It's not about getting the abs and having them forever. It's the lifestyle. It's the practice. It's the
lifestyle,
mode of living.
Absolutely. So on that note, I'm interested in terms of, talking about mode of living and lifestyle, personally or artistically. In the last 5 years, I want to know, what have you gotten better at saying no to?
That's a good one. So I'd say there's two answers, or two categories of answer. The first one that comes to mind is saying no to myself. So they're saying no to yourself, and then they're saying no to anything external, other people, the world, situations.
Okay.
And the one that rings truer and hits a little deeper is the self one. I mean, just saying no to, first of all, impulses that aren't necessarily healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, quitting smoking comes to mind. Just the ability to say no to your own unhealthy cravings that you know are, or anything that has led you down a bad path before, whether it's a certain kind of relationship or whatever. Mm-hmm. Being able to say no to yourself, being able to not just be pulled back and forth by just feelings, or I just feel this is right in this moment. You can't always trust your emotions. They're a really good gauge, and they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
They're there to tell you when something's wrong. But they can deceive you. So, saying no to yourself. And then also just as far as like self-defeating thoughts. It can be really easy when a thought comes from within. It can be really easy just to feel that it's true. Like, I'm saying it, I feel this right now. So it you don't think this through, but it just feels true in that moment.
Yeah.
So being intentional about having a conversation with yourself And I find that journaling helps with this, and being very precise in my speech and being intentional with what I'm saying to myself. I'll write letters to myself, dear Curtis.
Yeah.
Curtis is my first name. Dear
No,
CJ.
that's fantastic. I love that. Journaling has become such a huge part of my life too. And I love the concept of writing an actual like formal letter to yourself. That's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different shapes it can take, but one that comes to mind is, especially if you're going through a hard time or if you're stuck in a mental rut of some kind, to take the time to separate from yourself, if that makes sense, and write as if you're writing to a dear friend. Just look at yourself and pretend it's an entirely separate person feeling these feelings in the situation, everything that's going on. Like, what if this was a whole different person over here? Give it a different name if you need to, if it doesn't make you feel crazy.
It's like getting the bird's eye view, right, on the situation.
Yeah. Like, if this was my friend that I cared about deeply, what would they need to hear? What would I say to them?
Wow, I need to take a second to take that in. That's a really impactful exercise.
Yeah. Give it a try.
Yeah. Did you come up with that? Like, is that something that you were like, I'm just going to try this? Or where did you get that?
It all kind of blends together. I said, I've done a lot of reading. There's some really cool podcasts I like. And I've been taking ideas and concepts, and sometimes I just go for it and come up with it on my own. And sometimes it's an amalgamation of the stuff that's floating around in my head from what I've heard. There's a lot of good resources out there. There's a lot of good information. And that too, that's another great tool. Just streams of good input.
Yeah.
Find audiobooks or podcasts on topics that you like or that are leading you in the direction you want to be going in. And just listen to that in your car, and that stops the self-talk. If you're having trouble with self-talk or self-defeating self-talk, just let the sound come into your brain of what you want to be hearing and what you need to be hearing, and just it kind of helps cut those loops short and gives you little answers to those little questions that keep coming up.
Yeah, I think I feel like you might have just answered the next question. I was going to ask, when you do feel overwhelmed by those thoughts, or it's not so easy to say no to them, what do you do? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, and that's a great point too. I want to answer the question, but I also want to preface it. When I was talking about mode of living, I also don't believe people when they say they've got it figured out. It really is constant. And sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
That's okay. You were saying you don't believe people who say they have it all figured out, because it's like, there's no way.
Ask me your question.
Okay. So I was wondering, when you do feel like you have all of these detrimental self-talk happening, and you're not feeling like you're able to sort of say no to it, and you're feeling overwhelmed, what do you do?
Right. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. So having those moments, I guess my point was, the preface was, that's going to happen. You're going to have moments where you're not just starting to go off track and you realize it and you've got it all figured. Like, you're going to go off track.
Oh, yeah.
Also, okay. That's part of being human. That's part of, and it's the returning that helps you grow, even if it takes you a while to return to what you know is right. But so on that though, some ideas for that. It's whatever works for you, but it's anything that allows you to pause and take a step back. And then, so there's 2 steps, I think. Pause, reflect, take a step back, give yourself a break, take a deep breath, whether that's for 30 seconds or for a day out at the coast or whatever you need. And then the second step is make yourself do that first step to whatever project you're working on or whatever path you want to get back on.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had a trouble. I think it's just maybe a personality thing for me, but I tend to have a trouble with authority and with structure and with like, you must do this here, here, and here. And when I start imposing those things on myself, I end up battling that inside myself.
Yeah.
There is something to be said for be determined and make yourself do step 1. Step 1 is the hardest. And once you gain a little momentum, things start to roll a little more smoothly.
Yeah.
But the little kid in you can fight the parent in you, right?
Oh my gosh, I know.
So
And it's such a balance, right? Between
yeah.
wanting to like love yourself and respect your own, like if you're just like, I am not feeling this today, like
Yeah.
being like, okay, sometimes that's okay, right? But then
Mhm.
other days being like, no, you know what? Like you need to calm down and still do the thing.
Right. But yeah, and that's where the importance of taking that step back comes in. Because if you're sitting there just trying to force it and you're fighting it and then it's not coming out naturally, and take the break,
Yeah.
take the deep breath, whether you just need to write out some journal, and there's a couple different ways of journaling. It's writing out very meticulously what you think, or sometimes you just need to vent. Sometimes you just need to brain dump and get some anxieties on paper so they're containerized.
Yeah.
And set them aside, or go for a run to reset the physiology, get the heart pumping. That's huge. It's not just about burning calories. It's about,
Oh my gosh.
just going for a quick run has been life-changing for me. And I'm not exaggerating. Like when I'm stuck in a rut, I'm just looking at my same four walls and I can't get creativity out of myself. Just go sprint.
Yeah.
And your whole body heats up and your heart beats, and it's just a complete physiological flushing, and it really resets everything. Come back in, splash your face with cold water, and
good to go.
And sit back down and do step one, whatever that is.
Yeah, just do step one.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot agree enough with that. Exercise, especially this last year, has been so transformative for me, for my mental space. Before the pandemic, it was mostly exercise was like for burning calories, right? For like getting to look a certain way.
I should do this. Yeah.
Right. I should do this and it should hurt. Right. But now it's like, I want to do this because it makes me feel better. And that was like a crazy mind shift that I made this year. And it's still hard. Sometimes I'm like, no, but I know that it's going to reset me, and it's going to put me on the right path.
Yeah. And I think take that lesson forward. I mean, it really does change how you feel, and for me anyway, and it sounds like you're on the same path. This last year, I have really learned the immediate benefits of exercising.
Yeah.
Just those immediate psychological and physiological benefits. And now I can be aware of those and be like, I'm going to go for a run right now because I'm going to feel fucking awesome when I'm done.
Yeah. And that's such an awesome like rewire. That instead of being like, yeah, I'll go for a run and like, I guess it'll like do something for me in the long term. But instead it's like, I'm going to go for a run and like, I know I'm going to feel better. And even if I don't feel fully better, I know I did something okay for my body, right? Like that's valuable in and of itself. Yeah.
Yeah. And then same thing with meditating. I always thought meditating was a little weird. But the way I've learned about it, and that I guess the avenue that I went down was just, and I think this is well known now. I think it's become a lot more common and people understand what it really is. But for me, it's just simply disciplining your thoughts, or being intentional with your thoughts and being intentional with your attention.
Yeah.
And feeling whatever the present moment is instead of just floating around and existing.
Right.
And so the reason I bring that up is I just highly recommend this. It's really fun. Go for a run, sprint as hard as you can, and come back inside and sit down and have a little meditation where you're just, the body scan, where you're just feeling what you're feeling. And it's incredible. You feel your blood flowing through your veins, and all of your skin is on fire in a good way. It's just, it's really cool just to really sit down and notice what has happened in your body after you've exerted it. So
yes,
I don't know,
it's like the feeling of being
little
absolutely
factoid.
Alive, right?
Yeah. Not just tired and that sucked, but like, oh my God, my body is thriving right now.
Yeah. I'm totally gonna try that. You've given me so many tips, and all of our viewers too. I mean, this is amazing. So that's where we have to end it. I mean, this was such an amazing interview, CJ.
Thank you. I'm surprised it's over. I feel like it's been 4 minutes.
I know, it truly goes by like that. It was so lovely to reconnect with you. The beauty of this
Same.
virtual space is that we're able to uh, reconnect after years. I mean, I haven't seen you in years, and it's so amazing that you were able to come on tonight. And so, I'm sharing my utmost gratitude with you. Thank you for taking the time and for sharing your wisdom with us.
Well, likewise. Thanks for coming. Thanks for inviting me. And again, huge honor. I've always gotten a lot out of watching the other interviews, and it's so cool. I love how everything is interconnected because you'll be because I don't know anything about theater, and I don't know that I would ever act. I respect it and I love it. I love watching it, but but hearing people talk about the struggles and the ideas and the artistic perspectives, it just flows right into music. It flows right into painting. It flows right into life. I mean, it's just so cool to feel how everything ties together. So,
Yeah,
but
I
anyways,
couldn't agree more. For those who are watching, if you connected with anything CJ had to say, I'm sure you did. You can find him on Facebook if you want to connect with him further. And going back to the Build Your Own Fire group, that is going to launch live on Facebook on March 19th, and it's going to be a group, right? So you can join and sort of get involved in the Build Your Own Fire community. Is that right, CJ?
right. So it's there's a Facebook page just so anybody can come check it out and
Okay.
see some tidbits. And then from there, it'll lead to a private group where people can talk, say whatever they want without the whole world seeing it, basically.
Fantastic. And that goes on March 19th.
Yep.
So I'm so excited. It was so great to have you on again. Thank you for taking the time. And I'll see you when I see you, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Take
it.
care. All right, you guys, that concludes another amazing episode of Avenue A. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm popping over to the comments here and I'm seeing like a zillion comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm seeing Flobo, thanks for tuning in. My mom, she says, is Curtis an INFP? I don't know. I'll have to ask him. I wonder if he knows. Dallas was here. Thank you for, he says, give him hell, CJ. I love it. My grandma, thank you for tuning in. Nadine, you guys just fill my heart. Thank you so much for being here and for taking the time. I'm always so filled with gratitude during these little half hours where we just get to talk about life and art, and what's better than that. So all that being said, I will catch you all next week with another amazing guest. Take care.